Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to an exciting podcast interview. Today, I have Bobby Gaudreau, and he is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Activator. Man, this segment, Bobby, of first-party data management, CDPs, marketing automation is hot but confusing, and I hope today we're going to give dealers some clarity. You game for that conversation?
I'm game for that conversation, Brian.
Great. So let's step back. When we look at the marketplace today, the growing market of companies, CDP, CDEP, CDXP, the acronyms just keep running, dealer data platform. Should I keep going? No. But when I saw your product release a few NADA conferences ago, you came up to me and said, hey, we are building a data platform. We're going to not build it from scratch. We're going to use our expertise. We're going to use Salesforce. Salesforce obviously is a huge platform. In fact, members of the Salesforce team are going to be at DMSC, so I'm excited about that. They're looking to get into automotive, so you're really one of their first custom partners at Tier 3. Why did you guys choose Salesforce?
Yeah, so I'll kind of answer that by just backing up with a little bit of the history. So where we kind of got our start from is just historically, Dominion had some standalone products. So we had a company called Deal Activator that was probably one of the first equity mining solutions that Dominion bought in 2012. And we also had Auto Revenue. That was probably the first email customer retention tool that Dominion bought way before 2012. And a number of years ago, they were solid products, and we had some decent customers, but those were very competitive, hyper-competitive spaces. And so our CEO made a decision a number of years ago saying, I no longer want to be in that standalone business. It doesn't fit the portfolio of companies that we have. So I'm going to give you some time and try to build around that. And that's what we started to do. So we said, let's take what's really good about these things and start to apply some modern best practices around marketing and engagement and communication. And so we started initially in around 2019 building it ourselves, which we've got a rich history of building things on our own.
Building software.
And Dominion has got a deep bench and thankfully a lot of resources. After about a year of building this on our own, and we had some success and we validated that we were onto something, we realized that our ability to go fast and our ability to be flexible could be enhanced if we looked outside. And we brought in some outside consulting help, and they analyzed and did a formal kind of technical due diligence. And they came back with 3 recommendations. So one was continue what you're doing when it comes to extracting information out of a DMS. So we've got really solid integrations with all the DMSs, so we can pull information down, we can segment that, but replace your homegrown marketing system with something that in the real, like how in the real world would HubSpot or Marketo or Pardot define marketing automation and do that, and then introduce this concept of a customer data platform. And so truthfully, 3.5 years ago, I didn't even know what a CDP was. And now I'm going to conferences talking about them. So the decision really was not to outsource our experience, not to outsource our ideas, not to outsource all the subject matter expertise that Dominion has, but just outsource where we were building it. And I can say, the first year as we internally proved that we could get a journey going, we could send to multiple channels, we could get the branding to flow down the right way. Like there was a lot of trials and tribulations to get there, but we've got that. That was a lot of heavy lift. And what we've done in just the last 6 months alone, we wouldn't have been able to do in 6 years in our old system. So it was a big bet that is paying off.
I love that story. It's really refreshing. And for the dealers who are listening, I mean, how many times have you said, why are we reinventing the wheel? But Salesforce, like other enterprise scale software, needs to be customized to each vertical. And what's interesting is dealers have pushed off using Salesforce as a CRM or Salesforce as a CDP or Salesforce Marketing Cloud because it's such an open system. It takes some time and skill and knowledge
Money.
to customize it. But everyone will say, hey, if you're on that platform, then you have unlimited data channel activation for different marketing. Everyone plugs into the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And you have modern journeys, you have identity resolution, you have data hygiene practices. So why reinvent? So bravo to convincing the Dominion team that, hey, there's already a number of tools that are best in class, but they don't have our knowledge of automotive. They don't have our customer care for dealers. They don't know tier 3, and Dominion, of course, has done that. So if I understand, you've taken your knowledge, your learning, your templates, your designs that you're using for email or direct mail or any communication and say, look, that's where we excel.
Yes.
And I'm going to sit this on a world-class marketing automation and customer data platform. This seems super smart. And let's talk about dealers' response. You were honest. 3.5 years ago, you didn't know CDP. I'm going to join you 3.5 years ago. I didn't know. But, you know, it was actually John Clavadasher, who's president of Outsell. When he left Cars.com, he went into the consumer goods, CPG industry, consumer packaged goods. And he was like, Brian, everybody out here is using a CDP to manage their data. Man, automotive is so behind. And here's what he said, Brian, you got to look into this. You got to look in. And he gave me a list of companies. And I was like, okay. And then I said, oh, man, this has been the missing tool. The DMS was never meant to be a single source of truth. The CRM was never meant to be a consolidated record of all activity or in touch points. So how has the market responded as you're talking with dealers? Are they starting to understand that this third leg, what I call in the dealer operations, stool, which is the DMS, CRM, now CDP, are they understanding it?
They're starting to, and I think they're starting to because it was, for many different reasons, like what's going on with the CDP and all the, the acronyms that you listed before. It feels a lot like digital retail did a couple of years ago. It was like, man, this seems like a good idea, but what is it, right? And so I think if you just kind of break it down to the, and I'm going to come to your question, what's the response? But if you break it down to the basics, right? I mean, a CDP's design, like data silos is kind of has a negative connotation, but the reality is they exist, and they exist because they're supposed to exist, right? There's going to be different data silos. There's going to be different activation platforms, and that's not going to get smaller. That's only going to get bigger, right? And so if you look at that from a positive standpoint and to say, okay, there's got to be something in the middle of that. So why CDPs make sense for Fortune 10 companies to Fortune 1000 companies, they make sense for the same reasons that they do in a dealership, where you've got these primary databases like a DMS or a CRM that are often going to be the main source where I get a list to do some outbound marketing, right? Then there's all of these other incredible sources, whether it's call tracking or chat or AI, or I'm going to purchase some information that can feed into that system. And this isn't to be negative, but like a DMS and a CRM, like they're designed to do certain things, but what they're not designed to do is to be marketing tools. Right? They're not necessarily designed to be able to interpret customer engagement and customer reactions in real time and serve that back to another system. And so where we have been kind of, testing and tuning and learning just along with everybody else, but we always come back to the basics, like what problems are we trying to solve? And if the point of marketing is to market to an individual so that individual feels like what they're getting is personalized. So I know Brian Pash as opposed to Glenn Pash, as opposed to Brian Jones, right? And you all have different interests and things that you are catered towards, and having the ability to, the more I can learn about you, the more engagement that I have with you, the better that marketing is going to go. And so the response, where we've seen the response and where people are leaning and nodding their head, has been primarily around two areas. So unlike some of the other CDP, CDXP, other companies that have started, their origins kind of started more on the digital side, where ours started on the traditional marketing side, that was a strategic decision that we made because that's what we knew, that's what we were good at. So we were able to take, in our old system, what was literally 37 different recurring campaigns. So maybe buyback, lease, retention, like think of all of the different touch points. If you cast a wide net over your entire database and then into your PMA, we did that, right? We were able to then replicate that across 5 journeys that we've built in through Salesforce. So it's still all the same touch points. We're still doing all the same things, but we're doing it in a much more scalable, manageable way. And because we're combining these channels deliberately and cohesively, we can show tangible results on how we're reaching people better and faster because of the different channels. So we have the wrong email address, but we have the right cell phone number. So otherwise we wouldn't have been able to connect with this person. And then on the flip side of that, and we stumbled into this, and I think this becomes, for us, it's our biggest differentiator. And we bumped into this 2 years ago when we started marketing a lot more deliberately. We started to see a little bit of downward pressure on our reputation with the ISPs. And so we took a step back and we said, okay, well, what's different now? And what we realized is the quality of the data, right? This won't be the craziest thing you've heard today, isn't great in a DMS. And everyone said that. We now have the ability that we can actually quantify that. And I can kind of give you a couple of data points, but we organize the challenges with the data in 3 categories. So 1 is duplicates, 2nd is malformed records, and 3 is the invalid and spam traps. And you could double click on any of those and create 10 more categories, but we try to keep it simple. And I'll just, for the purposes of this, the duplicates, the outside consultant that we work with, he does, most of his clients are outside of automotive, but he does all big B2B, B2C, B2B2C marketing. His rule of thumb is, when he works with a client, the database that's creating the marketing list should have no more than 1% duplicate records in it. What we're finding when we go into a DMS is it's deep into the double digits. We've seen it as much as 60%. And so the use case is, I might run an equity campaign, and it's the 2nd Tuesday of the month, so it runs, and now I pull down 500 customers. And because we're using the VIN as a unique identifier, Brian Pash is in there. But unfortunately, there are 8 records for Brian Pash in there, because there's Brian Pash spelled P-A-S-C-H, Brian Pash spelled, P-A-S-S-H, right? There's just all these different iterations. All of those records, if there's not the right way, get pulled into that marketing campaign. And the next thing you know, you're just getting hammered multiple times. And so we have now designed what we're calling as a data management layer, which allows us to go into the DMS, identify, group together all of those duplicates, and then we have, it's art and science, and we go so much faster with our partners within Salesforce and other companies we're using. So that gets us to what we call the primary marketing record and the primary reporting record. I think it was the Auto Miner called it the golden record, right? So I think everyone is, probably getting in the same place. I like our chances on how we're using a lot of technology to get there. And what that allows us to do is we start marketing with a lot more confidence. And then just the last point to that I'll make is, what blew us away is the number of invalid and spam trap addresses. So we found that we analyzed last summer, approximate it, 300 customers, 8 million customer records. There were 250,000 duplicate records, 40,000 invalid spam trap addresses. And that's just insane. And so we now have the ability to identify those and push those out. So we're marketing clean. So,
one of the things, I'm glad you brought this up, because data hygiene, I've written about this. I've even shared some data. Dealers need to understand that whatever your marketing company is telling you, how many emails are in, valid emails or emails out of the DMS, you should know that great email marketing platforms pre-score any email list. And if email addresses are marked potential spam trap or potential heat, there's different things, or malformed, as you mentioned.
Yep.
No one's mailing these, but in the past, you didn't know this as a dealer.
Oh.
So, I got 40,000 customers in, but after you dedupe it, even when you try to email these people, there's a whole layer. There's thousands of records in the DMS that need to go out and get updated records, updated emails, and no one's updating the DMS. And so I'm going to go back to what you said, Bobby, is that the DMS and the CRM were never meant to be marketing automation. They were never meant to be that unified single source of truth for each customer. Nope. They were never meant to, I love this, control the cadence of communication through different channels. And now today we're starting to realize, wow, I would say, from a rough number, 40% of the vehicles that you think are still owned by the people in your DMS are no longer owned by them. These are huge opportunities. And you might say, well, Brian, the company I use, they say they're, doing disposal, cleaning, and NCOA and email pendant. All I want to tell you is, if you can't see it, if you can inspect it, if you can't get meaningful reports back, you have to assume or guess that they're doing it. And the bigger the dealer group, now we're talking of millions and millions of dollars. Let's pivot on something for a little clarification.
Yeah.
A CDP is basically designed to bring in those real-time signals daily or nightly or in real time, update the customer record, put those activation signals that move people into different journeys. Hey, they are looking at service pages, let's put them in a service journey, or they're looking at trucks, or okay. But then somehow, once consumers are placed in these journeys, let's call these dynamic lists that are secure, they're not dumping ASCII files and emailing. Right. Marketing automation piece comes in, right? And this is where dealers get a little screwed up. It's like, okay, if the CDP is supposed to be unifying, cleaning, all the things, Bobby, you just mentioned, then how does Activator get these audiences, these journeys of people into Facebook, into Google, into direct mail, into email? Can you talk a little bit about this? Because I think dealers are starting to understand, hey, I could have an updated view of each of my customers, but how do the ads get created and how do the campaigns run?
Yeah. So, on two elements. So, in the traditional sense, right, you would have, a company would have their, here's my databases where I'm creating a lot of lists, here are all the different channels by which I'm marketing from. And then in the middle of that, like the point of the CDP is, it's different than a data mart. It's different than other things. It's literally designed for marketing, right? It's software for marketing that then pushes that information into the appropriate marketing channel. So, so now if you dip back into automotive, we're kind of operating on we're building off of it. I think you were the one that coined the term, like the hybrid CDP, right? So right. We're doing the CDP and the marketing, right? If you were talking to me and I was working at, New Balance, like sneakers, I probably would tell you, well, I bought this company for my CDP, I have this company for my CRM, I have this company for my ERP, but I have a whole team of people who's managing the lists for me, right? We're responsible for managing lists. No one's responsible for managing any of that stuff at the dealer. They just assume the vendor does it, right? And so, but then that comes into, okay, now when we think about what are the execution or the fulfillment channels that we have, and then it's all about what is the entrance and the exit criteria. So we've got that, hammered out when it comes to the traditional marketing through email, direct mail, SMS. We're starting now to venture into the digital channel. So we've partnered with Fluency. So Fluency's got that all figured out. So we've got all of the integration points for them. We're responsible. We're starting off with some conquesting to start testing that out within our own system. So we're responsible for building the audiences. We're responsible. And then we basically pass that over to Fluency. They help us out with the execution. Then when someone engages, then that's going to come back into our CDP. And then it works exactly the way it's supposed to be designed.
So let's pause on there a second, because I think, again, I want to talk about a beautiful story. Brian, we know automotive. We know automotive data. We know automotive campaigns. Hey, we don't need to build a state-of-the-art marketing automation platform. I mean, the key here, the value, the gold is controlling the cadence of communication, personalize it, make sure the offers look good. Now, bidding strategies and AI, auto bidding, moving bids and campaign. Hey, there's really smart people who've done that. In fact, Fluency is really built by a number of former DDC, Dealer.com leaders, Eric Mayhew and others. Great company, skyrocketing in their growth and recognition. The reason why I bring this up is so many times vendors feel they have to do everything. And what they do is they make mediocre pieces just to get something out. And I like the idea that Activator is saying, look, we know automotive data, we know automotive marketing audiences, and we know how to build the creative to support that. Now I can just add a connector into a marketing activation platform like Fluency. I'll feed them the people in these journeys. They'll execute the campaigns. They'll send me back the signals. I don't have to worry about building the best in class tech. Fluency already's done it.
Yeah.
And now if a dealer says, hey, there's this other company who does some amazing customized marketing automation, you can say, great, no problem. We're on the Salesforce platform. It's an open API. We have complete flexibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not what we've had, right, Bobby? In the past, it's been, we don't have an API. We don't want you to have access to this data. We have a long queue of integrate, like, come on, this sounds like, Bobby, that you've really done the hard work to demonstrate in automotive, you could use enterprise software and open connectivity to deliver something at tier 3.
100%. And I mean, I think it all goes back to, I guess, our CEO gets all the credit, where it was like I said it before, we don't want to outsource our ideas and experience. It's just we're with speed to market wins, right? And it's how fast can we go? And I mean, as you were saying that, it reminded me of, listen, we've spent a ton of money, like, millions and millions of dollars in development to build this, but then at scale, like even some of the big dealership groups probably don't want or couldn't spend that amount of money, but a lot for us to be able to do that and then start to scale it out is a smart business model. And
that's
when we were negotiating with, and we didn't necessarily know we were going to go with Salesforce. Like our first beta test was with I can't even remember the name of the company, but it was a different marketing automation tool. They had a lot of experience with direct mail and email marketing. And it was pretty easy to get in and test, but they just weren't going to be the right fit. So we ended up spending, Salesforce isn't free, but when we were negotiating with them and we were like, well, why wouldn't we just continue to do this ourselves? Right. We already have years and years of experience. Right. And I wish I had recorded, our sales rep from Salesforce's comment, but, he went and listed off, he said, listen, there are 2 companies that are in my portfolio that I work with. He said, one, I can't mention their name, but a lot of people buy things from them online. Right? Yeah. Another one, probably you have them in your pocket and we're talking on them on your phone, right, on your computer now. these are companies that have unlimited budgets, right? Have some of the best and smartest people in the world working at these companies, and they've got all sorts of skunk work projects, right?
Yeah.
But they've decided that when it comes to the tech for the marketing and managing the data, they're going to go to the place that's all they're focused on, and that's always stuck with me. So if it's good enough for Amazon, I think it's good enough for us.
Yeah, and I know when the Del Grande Auto Group, DG.com, Nate Hollenbach, who's part of the Automotive CXO network, and they decided to go with Salesforce CRM, and it took them a while to get it customized for automotive retail, but now they have best-in-class connectivity with a series of tools that they wouldn't have available to them. And oftentimes these tools are a fraction of the cost of what's being charged to dealers in automotive because it's a captive market. So I'd love to see more companies exploring enterprise class software for automotive tier 3. That's why I'm having the Salesforce team come and speak at the CXO Summit before DMSC, because a number of our dealer group partners are very interested. It's like, where's Salesforce in this CDP conversation? I said, well, let's invite them in. Let's see what they have to say. So I'm really pleased to see the development of this. I love the fact you started where you're strong, which was email, direct mail, texting. Love the fact that you've partnered with Fluency, best-in-class marketing automation tech with AI, and proven leadership that knows automotive inside and out. When you think of the future, Bobby, let's think of the next 6 months. Dealers coming to DMSC in Austin. A lot of dealers and dealer groups are coming because they want to learn about CDPs. They want to know which partner they should choose. What do you see for your platform, for Activator? What are you the most excited for the second half of this year?
Yeah, no, I love great question. So, I mean, I think I don't want to say a tipping point, right? But I think we're at this, I think over the next 6 to 12 months let me just back it up this way. Like I got my career in selling into automotive in 2005 out of business school. I started working for Autobase selling CRM systems. And, the first year I was the first rep in New England. Autobase at the time had a pretty strong presence in the Midwest. There was 2 dealers in New England. There was 2 in Connecticut. And the first year I'm knocking on doors and dealers are like, what's a CRM, right? And then it was like one day I woke up and it was like I stopped prospecting. It was just calls were coming in. Hey, we're installing our first CRM and we're looking at, higher gear, we're looking at you, and we're looking at Reynolds, right? And then it was just a Western shootout, and we were just doing presentations,
right?
And then boom, and now most dealers are probably on their fifth or sixth CRM, and I see the same thing happening here because it's always felt that auto's always been a couple years behind. The CDP space outside of automotive, it's the fastest growing software segment in enterprise software, more than anything else. So it's coming. And I think we're at the point now where there's enough people are asking the right questions and enough people are understanding it. And then they can kind of figure out, okay, well, what do I want, right? Am I a big group, or do I have a lot of resources where I'm going to be okay with an Orbi where they're doing an unbelievable job of pulling in all this information from other sources, but I already have everything set up from a marketing standpoint, and that's going to work. That's the traditional CDP environment outside of automotive. I think what we're believing is, the biggest market is there's going to be a lot of stores that are saying, hey, I need to clean up my data. I want to do a better job of marketing, but I just don't have the time, money, or resources to worry about all of this marketing. So I want someone to help me out too. And so that's where we fall into play. And now for us, what I'm excited about is we have a long roadmap. We've got a lot of stuff that we're really focused and prioritizing on right now. But I think the heavy lifting for us is done, right? We have bulletproof journeys. We've got reporting with best-in-class reporting now. So we're starting to really see true incremental ROI. So it's like moving beyond just attribution. And this is like true incremental ROI. And now our roadmap is saying, and this is what you've been preaching all along, is now if it's a platform, what are the next piano keys that we're going to add, right? So now we at NADA this year, I mean, we joked, we had, I think, 25 different partner meetings at NADA, which I think was 24 more partner meetings than I had the previous NADA.
Yes.
And these were
Yes.
all companies coming to us saying, hey, we see what you're doing. How can we work with you? So all of the phone tracking companies, all of the
Yes.
chat companies, all of the AI
Amen.
engagement. So it's really saying, okay, who do we want to partner with first? And then we just start building those piano keys out. So
yeah, that's the key. And I think, when I did the first CDP research report, and I'm going to be publishing an updated one soon, you were very, honest, like, Brian, here's where we are. We're going to stick with what we know best, which was, direct mail, email, texting. And yeah, we don't do phones right now. We're not integrating chat signals, but we understand those things are important. So I'm really glad that they are on the roadmap. And for dealers who are listening, I can't encourage you enough to come down to DMSC, because all of the leaders in this growing space called customer data platforms, which includes first-party data management, data hygiene, identity resolution, secure activation of data, marketing automation platforms, and better attribution reporting. All of these kind of fall into this very important conference. And so I want to encourage the dealer groups who are looking for this next lift in their marketing effectiveness, dealer groups who are looking to increase retention and increase the lifetime value of each customer. This is the conference to come to, because we have ample time for socialization. You have breakfast, lunch, cocktail hours each night, plus great hands-on sessions, interactive. So it's really important that you get out and especially see where Activator has leaned in, and see the Salesforce tech and their years of thought leadership in automotive marketing come together. Bobby, if people can't attend DMSC, and that would be a crime, but there's some who can, what's the best way for them to get a demo of the platform? I mean, Dominion website may be a little overwhelming for people to find where your product base is, but is there a better website for people to go to?
yeah, if you go to activator.ai, and that is a very
That's easy.
Yeah, it's an easy website. So you go there, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to reach out to us or request a presentation. And then if you're even not ready for that, I'm proud of the fact the amount of content that we've put up on that site, whether those are use cases or white papers or just trying to educate yourself that you can read at your leisure. We're proud of the depth and the breadth of the content that we have on our website. So I'd encourage people to check that out as well.
And I want to say one thing, Bobby, to your story about CRMs when you first started selling CRMs. Dealers, if you remember back in those days, you didn't wait for CRMs to be perfect. And Bobby even implied that you may be on your third or fourth. Hey, we started with Cowboy CRM, or you mentioned Higher Gear, for example, which for many years had that outdated interface,
Crayon.
But yeah, but the key here is no one waited for it to be perfect, because there is value in the technology, even as it evolved. And I want to encourage, have every vendor decided to participate in a more open data ecosystem? No. Large dealer groups are getting these vendors to move very quickly. Is every touch point in the consumer journey recorded in the CDP today? No, but we're getting more and more all the time. Is the value propositions all defined? No, there's new value propositions being discovered all the time, but it is creating better customer experience. It is reducing marketing waste. It is helping dealers control cadence, and it is giving dealers more signals of when their existing customers are back shopping online before they fill out a form or before they call. All of these things should be music to your ears. That's why I want to encourage the dealers who are listening. Come out with your team and really sit down and talk through your current marketing strategy, your current marketing pain points, and ask yourself, do I really care about retention? Do I care about increasing my lifetime value? Do I really want to secure my data? Do I really want to have clean data? These may sound like rhetorical questions, but if you're not doing anything about it, I'm going to say it's not a priority. So, Bobby, your team will be there. You're going to be ready to answer questions. And Austin's a great city, not only to learn, but maybe to catch some live music. What do you think about that?
No, I'm already looking at dinner reservations and going to the Mellow Johnny's bike shop. So I've got that lined up as well.
Right. Well, for the dealers and marketing professionals and automotive industry leaders watching today's podcast, you should know there are dozens of interviews on my podcast channel. So just search for the Brian Pash Podcast. And this is part of a series leading up to DMSC. So you might as well listen to the other thought leaders who will be in Austin June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So go to digitalmarketingstrategies.org and get signed up. Get your tickets, book your hotel, and then get ready for amazing learning. One other thing, this year, with every ticket that is purchased by a dealer, you get access to 4 online courses. 1 on the latest in Google paid advertising, 1 on social media paid advertising. I'm doing a course on first-party data management, CDP, and my brother Glenn is doing on modern lead handling process, which is online courses plus a 2-hour session at DMSC for great learning. So you get the whole conference plus 4 online classes and a 2-hour lab. Man, we're talking about value on top of value. So go to digitalmarketingstrategies.org and maybe reach out to Bobby and get him to buy you dinner. Bobby, what's the best email address? If people want to go out to dinner with you in Austin, how should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll say it slow. I usually talk fast, but it's either Bobby or Robert and then my last name, it's GAUDREAU at activator.ai, or you can find me on LinkedIn and message me on LinkedIn. So
great. Well, Bobby, thanks for being on a podcast. Thanks for being part of a movement to give dealers more choice in how they handle their first-party data and to fill the gaps that are created because the DMS and the CRM weren't meant to be used for marketing, automation, personalization, and cadence of communication. And that's what we're going to solve at DMSC. Move the conversation forward. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and I'll catch you next time on another podcast interview.